A lot of good stories this morning as well, apart from just Rachel Reeves and her speech. Daily Mail's got a piece today which is tucked away, and it's not as if they're paying that much attention to it, but 90% of the country's streets in this country, in Britain, are blighted by litter, according to a study that's been done by a charity called Keep Britain Tidy. They say it's a wake-up call, shows that litter damages the environment, makes people feel depressed and unsafe. And one of the things that people always say to me is that when they go to other countries, they're always so much cleaner. What is it about Britain that has people just throwing stuff away? We've got fly tipping as a problem. We've got, you know, litter everywhere. The streets that you walk down are pretty untidy.
The thing that sends me mad, the thing I get really angry about, is when people just chuck
stuff out of a car. Oh. Yeah. No, absolute nightmare.
And it's usually like some fast food wrapping.
Yeah.
They're just shameless about it. They have their food and they're driving along and they'll literally just wind down the window and just chuck all of the rubbish out the window.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it may be...
It's antisocial, isn't it?
It's antisocial, but I think I just wonder whether it's slightly instructive about how we see this country, how many people just see this country now. Right. You wouldn't do it at home.
No.
You wouldn't litter somewhere if you really cared about this, right? If you were...
I mean, it's a bit like the dog situation. I mean, I go, obviously, walking the dog. It was his birthday yesterday, Ziggy. Happy birthday for yesterday. We already know that. You go to the woods, for example, and you still see people who haven't picked up after their dog, right? Or you see people who have put it in a plastic bag and then just chuck the plastic bag into the sort of other bit of the woods that they think nobody will see. It's like, what's wrong with you? Just take the bag, put it into the bin, which is made for the bag to go in. Why would you not do that?
I think it's about sort of respect, isn't it? If you care about where you live, if you care about the woodland where you take Ziggy for his walks, then you would automatically,
look after where you are.
You'd automatically keep it tidy, like you would keep your garden tidy at home, or if King Charles invited you to Buckingham Palace, you wouldn't throw litter then, would you?
No, you
because you'd have a respect for the fact that you're in the garden of Buckingham Palace and you've been invited by King Charles.
Also, you might think that somebody will see you doing it and you won't do it. And I wonder whether, you talk about the people that throw stuff out of their car. They obviously don't care because people aren't necessarily going to give them a hard time. But, most people will not throw litter if they think that you're likely to see them doing it, and you might go up to them and say, would you mind picking that up? But even on like trains and things and public transport, I found that they're now much more untidy than they used to be.
They're dirty, and it's not. Just pick up after
It's a big thing. It is, and it's all about civilization. It's all about the world in which you want to live. How about this one though? This is interesting. More than 500 fat jab prescriptions handed out to servicemen and women. When I read this story, it's called Britain's Wobbly Warriors in the Daily Mail, page 9. I thought to myself, I thought they used to run around exercise yards and sort of be incredibly fit. We've now apparently got an army of people who are overweight.
Yes, and this story is also... The drugs are signed off, this is on page 9 of the Mail, by commanders. At the same time, essential exercises have been scaled back and equipment purchases have been cancelled. So it's like, from what the inference from this article is that actually troops can't actually do anything of use.
Because they're all overweight.
And therefore they're just sort of lounging about watching television.
Have they done away with sergeant majors? And the sergeant majors not existing?
I don't know why.
You horrible lot.
I can understand there might be some cuts in the MOD budget, but I don't know why you can't do 5 laps of a exercise yard because of the cuts in the MOD budget. It doesn't make any sense. And what's interesting about this is that the excuse seems to be that if they don't get the weight loss drugs, then they're going to get type 2 diabetes, and then when they have type 2 diabetes, they're going to be on medication. They can still be in the army with type 2 diabetes on medication, but you can't be on the front line.
No.
Because, of course...
So what's the point then?
So what's the point of having them?
Why can't they just say, look, you're too fat, get out?
Well, but that would be a breach of the Equality Act, I think, Mike.
I think we should just do away with that. Have a look at the Times, page 2. Households that only watch streaming services such as Disney Plus and Netflix may be forced to pay the BBC licence fee according to modernisation plans, which are going to be unveiled by the government at some point in the future.
This is another one that drives me mad. I mean, on the eve that you're trying to convince, Rachel Reeves' speech today is not necessarily for the man and woman on the street. It's there for foreign investors. It's there for the likes of companies, big companies like Disney or Netflix, to come and invest in this country. So what you're saying is actually Disney, Netflix, you can come and invest in this country, but we're going to tax you, tax your customers because they're using your services to pay for the BBC.
Yeah.
Look, big things are happening in the media at the moment. The world is changing. We're seeing it all the time.
We're hearing today that Sky News may be taking themselves off linear TV.
We can't get around that. And the BBC cannot be immune.
Like we did.
Yeah.
The everybody said when we did it was like, oh, that's a weird thing to do, isn't it? No, it's not actually.
But the BBC cannot be immune from this stuff.
Yeah.
If that's the trend, the British public can't just be expected to fund them to keep it the way it was. The world is changing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the argument
the BBC
was,
has to go
as
with...
you stand King Canute like going, well, this is how we've always done it. Sorry, that's not an argument anymore for anything, is it?
No, and you can't expect... businesses have adapted, and I don't see why successful companies like Disney or Netflix or any of those other streamers, those customers should be expected to subsidise the BBC.
No,
if the BBC wants to be successful, the BBC can be successful, but it's got to produce... and it does do this, by the way, because there are parts of the BBC that do this. They've got to come up with shows that they can sell around the world and that people will be willing to pay for because they want to subscribe to the BBC app, BBC whatever it is, and download it.
I'm not against the BBC doing good things and making those things work. If they do them well, then let them do them and let them make money. It's fine.
The BBC. But the problem, of course, is the BBC haven't got the people in there with the know-how in order to do this. Right? Let's just say it as it is. Right? They haven't got that. No. They've just got taxpayers' money. They've always just had this licence fee payers' money, so they can just spend the licence fee payers' money rather than actually, putting in people real business acumen to come in and say, no, this is the way we've got to do it. I just think this is, wholly unfair on Netflix subscribers and Disney subscribers.
Right.
If I was those two companies, I'd be livid.
Exactly right. We've got a voice now. I don't know if we've got time for it. Have we got time for it? Yeah, let's go.
Hello, Mike. Great show. I don't know if you've seen, but it was announced yesterday that Labour are looking at, because obviously everyone's going away from paying the TV licence, that they're going to tax you if you stream. Well, that's fine, because if they knock at my door, I only use my TV for PlayStation and DVDs. What they're going to do, tax you for watching DVDs, because if everyone says they don't stream, I mean, they just can't come up with any more excuses to get more tax off you, can they?
I'll tell you what I'd commission if I was at the BBC, right? Here's a show, go to people like Dave's house and trying to get them to pay the licence fee. That would be great fun for an hour, at least.